it kept, you know, increasing my limit, and I kept spending the money. Hey YouTube, it's your host Francesca. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video, I kind of wanted to make a video about why I moved back home. So I moved back home last September. Yeah, like the end of September when my lease ended. I moved from Charlotte, North Carolina back to Columbia, South Carolina, back to my mom's house. I had not been back at home since I was 17 when I initially left for college. So that whole time I was either in a dorm, like my first year. Well, yeah, I was only in a dorm my first year, and then after that I was in apartments where it was paid for by like refund checks or when I started working. So I kind of got like sections that I want to talk to on my phone. The first one was, of course, why everybody moved back home: finances. So I really do think it's true. If you never had money, you do not know how to handle money. Yeah, when I first left for school, I wasn't working or anything. I was just going to class. Housing was paid for, and my mom was giving me like $40 here and there every couple of weeks just to buy like whatever I needed. During my second year of school, I started getting like very small refund checks, nothing to really do anything with. So of course I didn't save anything. I was buying like hair, getting my hair done, going out to eat a lot. Like me and my homeboy was going out to eat probably 4 times a week. Not necessarily sit down places, but Chipotle had me in a chokehold. When I moved to Baltimore, it was the first time I ever heard of Chipotle. Everybody ate it, and it had me in a strong chokehold, baby. Like, it was not letting me go. And you know, that was back in the day. My bowls used to be like $8, $9. But that add up when you're not working and you're depending on somebody else to give you money. I don't really consider me having bad habits at that point, just because I wasn't really making any money. So when I moved to Charlotte, that's when I officially started getting like really big refund checks. Not only was I getting refund checks, but I was working, but this was also the first time where I had to actually pay rent. My rent when I first moved to Charlotte, it was a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. I had 2 other roommates. One ended up not coming, and we all had a rent of like $575. It was individual leases, but it was one apartments. So you know how student apartments work. So it was $575. I was splitting up my refund checks. Like, I was paying half my rent with my refund check and then half of my rent with my CNA money, because this is when I had first got my CNA license and I was working part-time. So that was fine, but I still was not saving any money. Like, when I got a refund check, I would put the money away to pay my rent, but the rest of it, oh, I was balling out. But it's crazy, I was balling out. I wasn't taking no trips. I wasn't really like buying no clothes and stuff. I never really been like a shopper. All the money was like either hair, makeup, and food. The same thing I'm spending my money on now. You know, while I was still in school, it really wasn't a problem. Like, there wasn't a time where I didn't have like any money. So to me, I was kind of straight, because I wasn't in dire need of anything. So it wasn't until, I would say, right before I graduated, I had planned to go on a cruise, and that's when I had bought my dog a couple of weeks before graduation. The cruise, it wasn't expensive. I think it was like $1,000 maybe, and I went to the Bahamas with my homegirl. After I got back from that trip, dirt poor. I was not one of those people that had a job lined up after graduation, because baby, I was just trying to graduate. I could not think of nothing else. I was just trying to walk across that stage and be done with it. I did not think about applying no jobs, no internships, no nothing. I was just in such a bad space that I was just ready to graduate and just let that be that. So after graduation, I got my first, I guess, you know, full-time job. And at that point, I still had roommates, but I was paying a little bit more. Like, my base rent was like $7.45, and then, you know, we split cable, Wi-Fi, and electricity, water, and sewer, I think. So this is really when I started struggling, but I still had my head above water because I had a full-time, you know, 80-hour every 2-week job, and then I also still was doing my CNA job. But the thing was, my CNA job, of course, didn't pay no real money, which is probably why I wasn't ever able to save while I was in school and working, because I was only making like $12, I think, when I first started there. And then when I left, I was still only making, I think I was making $14 when I left, which is no fucking money at all. So it wasn't until I got my first actual apartment by myself where I feel like things kind of went downhill for me. Well, my first apartment by myself, I feel like, is where I really started to rack up the debt. Not only at this point did I have a regular Wells Fargo credit card, it kept, you know, increasing my limit and I kept spending the money, but I also had got a Discover card at this point, and that card wasn't maxed out, but it was damn near close to being maxed out. And I decided to get another credit card to put my furniture on. That ended up being like $1,200. And then on top of that, I had went to the doctor and ran up a bill getting all this testing done that I thought was gonna be covered by my insurance, which is a scam. And that ended up being like $1,400 to run all those tests. And then I had to still pay the actual doctor bill. So at this point, basically both my cards are maxed out and I'm still paying on my furniture bill. Furniture bill wasn't really a problem. I pretty much got that paid off within a couple of months just because I just wanted that to be done with. So furniture bill, got that off. The two biggest things that I had to worry about was the Discover card and my Wells Fargo card, because I had ran up at this point maybe like $10K worth of debt, and I was only paying the minimum a month. So the interest was going crazy, and it's like, even though I was putting a couple of extra dollars to the bill, it wasn't going nowhere. So I was in a really bad financial spot to where it's just, I felt like I was just in a cycle, like going to work, working 2 jobs, barely having enough. I'm not gonna say I barely had enough money, but I really didn't have enough money to do what I wanted to do. Like, taking trips was something big for me that I never did because all my money was going to my credit cards. So I was like working to pay my rent and working to pay off my credit cards. So that was one of the really big factors that caused me to move home. The second one was location. When I first moved to Charlotte, coming from Baltimore, it was a complete difference. Like, people can say what they want to about Baltimore, but I actually really did like Baltimore, and I hated Charlotte so bad when I first moved there, and I couldn't leave. Like, I had to finish school. Granted, after I graduated, I could have left. I just didn't. I was just settled. Like, I had my place, I had my job, I just didn't move. And then the pandemic came, and I really should have moved when the pandemic came instead of renewing my lease, but because my job had already moved home and we kind of like weathered the storm during the pandemic, and I was getting jobs after I quit that job, it didn't really affect my workings, so I didn't have to come home. After it came down to like if I wanted to renew again or find another place. I was like, I really don't want to renew again, just because my apartment was shitty and I didn't feel like looking for another place because I hated Charlotte. So it got down to the wire. My roommate was moving to Atlanta, but she also had a internship lined up that kind of like all fell into place for her. So I was like, I don't really want to move to Atlanta and be doing the same thing I'm doing in Charlotte, and it'd be higher to do the same thing that I'm doing in Charlotte. So I was like, I'm just gonna go back home, and that was that. After I kind of made that decision about, I think it was like 4 months before my lease was up, I was just like, it's just whatever. So my last two things was mental health and social media. I would say I started struggling with my mental health honestly right when I had got to Charlotte. So like 2015. I don't feel like it got bad until 2000, maybe 18. But it was just something I was just like sweeping under the rug till it got to a point where I was just like, I didn't really want to go out. I would say it got bad like right before lockdown. Like I had already went to the doctor, got on medicine, and then the lockdown came, and I felt like it made it 10 times worse because I wasn't leaving the house. Really, it wasn't no stores open because that was the only time I would really leave the house anyway. If I wasn't hanging out with somebody, I would just go to like Target. I was just like really numb. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to leave the house. I was just not in a good space. I really wasn't showering. I wasn't like getting ready for the day. I wasn't doing anything. I was just like, I was just kind of existing, like doing my work, going to lay down on the couch, eat, sleep, repeat. So I kind of was like in a cycle. And then at that time, I feel like I started, consuming more social media, obviously because everybody was at home. And it really took a toll on me to see people that were so much younger than me doing so much better than me. Which is something that I'm still struggling with now, especially that I moved back home. Sorry, brain freeze, so here's a voiceover. Yeah, like I was saying, at this time I was really consuming a lot of social media, and I feel like it was kind of like warping my mind just to see people younger than me or people my age or just a tad bit older than me. They have all these opportunities even though we're in a lockdown. Like they have a nice house, they have game rooms, they have this, they have that, and I was just in my shitty 567 square feet apartment, doing my work from home stuff and just chilling with my dog. And over that time span, just consuming basically everybody else's life really took a toll on me to the point where I was just like, I feel like I want to go home and do a reset. So that's what I did. And ever since September 2020, I've been back at my mom's house. Right now, I guess I'm preparing my exit, and we will see what's next in store for me. So anyway, thank you for watching the video. Remember, like, comments, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.